So I thought I'd do a little video on Muncaster Castle, one of the most haunted places in England. It's in the northwest of England, in a place called Ravenglass, which is in Cumbria. It's kind of like the castle in Beauty and the Beast, all those rooms and winding staircases. People say the tapestry room has the most ghostly presence. Everyone in the framed pictures is unsmiling, and the fire pokers have demon effigies carved into the metal. So family actually still live at Muncaster Castle. They are the Pennington family and they've lived there for over 800 years. It's like something out of a fairy tale. Back in medieval times, a jester was employed by the Pennington family, and this guy, Tom Skelton, his name was, the name of the jester, ended up being the basis for Shakespeare's Tom Fool in King Lear. A quote here from the jester in King Lear: "Have more than thou showest, speak less than thou knowest, lend less than thou owest." So subscribe if you're enjoying the content. I ain't Shakespeare, but no one can say I don't try. And so I'd be a fool if I didn't ask you to subscribe. So the jester's name was Tom Skelton, and his portrait actually hangs in Muncaster Castle. Obviously jesters are supposed to be funny and entertaining, but there is a really super dark side to this particular court jester. So the legend goes, the daughter of Sir Alan Pennington, Hellwise Pennington, that was her name. Well, it sounds to me like she was a bit of a catch. For example, there was a guy called Wild Will of Whitbeck who really fancied the pants off the Pennington girl, Hellwise, and for the May Day celebrations, Hellwise comes out dressed as a shepherdess, but her lover turns out to be this guy called Richard, but I mean he was known as Dick. So she comes out dressed as a shepherdess going to find Dick, and that obviously enraged Wild Will of Whitbeck. So Wild Will of Whitbeck was really annoyed that he was losing out to a lowly carpenter known as Dick. So he runs off and he wants to tell this guy called Sir Ferdinand that Hellwise is keeping company with this guy called Dick. Why does he want to tell Sir Ferdinand? It turns out Sir Ferdinand really fancies Hellwise too. And this is what I mean, she seems to have all this attention, right? Yeah, she must have been hot. So Wild Will of Whitbeck finds Sir Ferdinand and he's like, look at who our babe is keeping company with, like that's really bad. And Sir Ferdinand is enraged and jealous, so he runs off to tell Alan Pennington, Hellwise's dad, what she's been doing in a bid to, you know, shame her and stop her from seeing the lowly carpenter known as Dick. But on Sir Ferdinand's way to finding Hellwise's dad, he bumps into the court jester, Tom Skelton. It turns out that Tom Skelton, the jester, hates Dick as well, as he allegedly stole money from him. The jesters, at the end of the day in those days, were just servants, so they'd hang around the castle, you know, with the other servants, and it was completely conceivable that, you know, they'd steal money from each other and that sort of thing, and there'd be things going on, you know, in the community, as normal. I put those 3 shillings that you gave me into a hole, and I found them weazened every time I went to look for them, and now there are only 3 silver pennies. I have just found out that Dick has weazened them. Kill him, Tom, with his own axe when he is asleep sometime, and I'll see that thou takest no harm for it. He deserves it, and I'll do it. The next day, Dick was taking an after-dinner nap, and Tom Skelton, aka the last jester of Muncaster Castle, came in and lopped Dick's head off. Once the dastardly deed was done, the jester turned to the servants and said, "There, I have hid Dick's head under a pile of shavings, and he will not find that so easily when he awakes, like he did my shillings." A fear of clowns is known as coulrophobia. Obviously, we all know about the hideous depictions of clowns in Stephen King's Pennywise and John Wayne Gacy's Pogo the Clown. Wayne Gacy art, I don't know if you've seen it, going for about 7 to 10k. I mean, it's a bit off collecting them, but you know, I could see why people would. John Wayne Gacy always actually reminds me of Madonna Wayne Gacy, which was one of the keyboard players in Marilyn Manson, the band Marilyn Manson. He had Marilyn Manson himself, who was Marilyn Monroe and Charles Manson. Madonna Wayne Gacy, who is, well, Madonna and John Wayne Gacy. And Twiggy Ramirez, who was Twiggy and Richard Ramirez. So Tom Skelton, the jester at Muncaster, in fact the last jester of Muncaster, has a portrait that hangs in the castle halls. The portrait's amazing. He's wearing like a full-on kind of jester clothing and has a document written in doggerel next to it, which is allegedly his will that's been painted into the picture. Doggerel, what the F is that, I hear you cry? Well, it's a type of poetry, very simple in its kind of rhyme and meter, coming off as kind of cheap and tawdry, kind of playful and simple. Doggerel. Oh, ill-fated bridge of the silvery Tay, I now must conclude my lay by telling the world fearlessly, without the least dismay, that your central girders would not have given way. At least many sensible men do say. That's a quote from a famous Scottish poet, William McGonagall, which is a famous sighting of the doggerel style. So the jester's will was written in doggerel, which was just so romantic. Reading a bit more about Tom Skelton, who allegedly haunts the castle, and actually his portrait is thought to be a bit of a hub of all the strange goings on that happen in Muncaster Castle. Tom Skelton actually sounds like he was quite funny. He used to sit on tree branches and cut the branch off while he was sitting on it, or grease up banisters to annoy guests. And when Tom was asked who'd dared to do all of these practical jokes, he was known to say that everyone had a hand in it. Who greased up the banisters, Tom? I thought everyone was involved. There is a chestnut tree that sits outside Muncaster Castle, which is where the jester was supposed to sit. It was supposed to be his favourite place. And legend has it that when passers-by passed him by and asked him for directions, he would direct them to the dangerous nearby quicksands of the River Esk. So kind of spooky, but worth checking out, especially on a cold, blustery day in November, where the castle stands so tall and dark and imposing. The wind rattles through the halls, ghosts walk the maze, owls flood the aviary, and the old chestnut tree looks lonely outside without its warped little friend, Tom Skelton, the last jester of Muncaster Castle. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe.